I thought my life was perfect. I had him. My partner. My safe harbor. I could feel it in the way he laughed, the way he held my hand, the way he looked at me like I was the only person in the world. Everything was planned. Our future. Our little traditions. Our quiet Sundays. I thought we were untouchable. You ready for dinner? He asked one evening, brushing his hand over mine. Yeah, I smiled, leaning into him. I'll just grab my bag. That's when I noticed her. Lena. My cousin, always hovering. Always around. Hey, can I come too? She said. That smile stretched too wide, her eyes glinting in a way that made me uncomfortable. I thought we set just. I hesitated. But he shrugged, smiling politely. Sure. I let it go. I should instead have. It wasn't the first time I'd felt it, that subtle shift in her presence. A laugh too loud at our private jokes. A hand brushing mine when I thought no one noticed. I told myself I was imagining it. Jealousy maybe. Family quirks. Nothing more. But that night, everything changed. I came home later than usual. Exhausted. I tossed my bag on the bed and picked up my phone. That's when I saw it. A string of messages blinking on the screen. From Lena, to him. My stomach dropped before I even read them. Can sit wait to see you tonight. You cite you're amazing. I don't stet know why she doesn't stet notice. I think about you all the time. I froze. My breath caught. I read it again, and again. Why would she? I whispered to myself, voice barely audible. I felt the room tilt. The walls close in. The person I trusted most. The person I loved most. Betrayal didn't taste like poison. It tasted like betrayal. Heavy, metallic, sharp. I didn't cry. Not yet. Not in front of him. Not in front of anyone. I clenched my fists until my nails dug into my palms. He walked in then, humming. You okay? I looked at him, my heart hammering. Yeah, I said I'm fine. I wasn't stet fine. Not even close. I needed answers. I confronted Lena first. I found her scrolling through her phone in the living room, her expression casual, too casual. Lena, what is this? I held up the screen. She looked at it, blinked, and then laughed. Just laughed. It stops nothing, she said, like it was a joke. You start overreacting. Overreacting? Lena? These messages, I shook it toward her. They separate to him. You sept been behind my back. Her smile didn't set falter. I didn't set mean anything, just joking. Joking? I echoed, my voice breaking. You such joking while tearing my life apart? She shrugged, casual, like it was nothing. And that's when I realized it wasn't a joke to her. To her I was replaceable. My happiness, disposable. I left her there, laughing softly to herself. I needed to think, needed to breathe, needed to understand how the people you trust the most can hurt you the deepest. I went to him, my partner, heart racing, voice trembling. Who is Lena to you? He frowned. What do you mean? I mean these messages, I said, holding my phone out. How long has this been going on? His eyes widened. I could see it, guilt. Or was it fear? Its steps not what it looks like. But I didn't let him finish. My world had shifted. My safe harbor was no longer safe. My perfect life had cracks. I hadn't noticed. And at the center of it all, Lena, my cousin, my friend, my betrayer. I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. But mostly, I wanted to remember this feeling, that sting, that heat in my chest. Because one day, I promised myself, she would pay for it. And I would make sure she knew exactly what it felt like. I couldn't breathe. Not properly, not enough air to scream, not enough to cry. I stood in the middle of our living room, phone shaking in my hand, my heart hammering like it would burst through my chest. Why? The word tore out of me before I could stop it. He looked at me, eyes wide, hands half raised like he could somehow shield himself from the storm I was. It just happened, he said, like those 3 words could undo the knife twisting in my chest. Just happened? I laughed. A short, bitter bark. Do you even hear yourself? He swallowed. I don't stet know. I was instead thinking. Not thinking? I spat, stepping closer. Not thinking while laughing at her jokes. Not thinking while holding her hand. Not thinking while. I didn't set mean to hurt you, he said, voice cracking now. Finally, a sliver of guilt. I love you. I never wanted. But I didn't let him finish. Because love didn't look like this. Love didn't lie. Love didn't sneak around behind your back while smiling in your face. I found Lena later that night. She was in the kitchen, making herself a cup of tea like she hadn't just shredded my life into pieces. Lena? I said, voice low but trembling. We need to talk. Oh, come on, she said, turning with that infuriating grin. You subdramatic, it steps not like it, steps the end of the world. Not the end of the world? I echoed, my hands curling into fists at my sides. You, my cousin, you did this, you betrayed me, both of us. She laughed, soft, mocking. Oh please, don't set act like you didn't see it coming. He sets easy to like. Easy to like? My voice was shaking. I raised you. I trusted you. You were supposed to be on my side. I am on my side, she said, tilting her head, eyes sparkling like she was playing a game I didn't understand. Just, not today. I felt the room tilt. My kitchen, my home. It felt like someone else's now, foreign, alien. Every corner held echoes of laughter I didn't want to hear. Every shadow reminded me of a secret I'd never wanted to find. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, watching the dark twist into shapes I didn't recognize. I scrolled through my phone, over and over, reading every text, every joke, every seemingly innocent message that suddenly felt like a trap. Every I love you, he whispered. A lie. Every hug, every touch, a betrayal. And you, Lena, the cousin I adored, plotting behind my back like it was a game. Tears came, slow and unrelenting, not just for him, not just for her, but for me, for the part of me that thought love was enough, for the part that trusted too easily, too openly, for the part that believed family meant loyalty. I felt hollow, empty, like my chest had been excavated and left for me to crawl out of, piece by piece. Friends called, I didn't answer, not because I wanted to be alone, but because how could I explain this? How could I tell them that the people I loved the most had been quietly stabbing me while smiling at me? Hours blurred into each other. Days became a haze of sleepless nights and replayed conversations. His confessions, her laughter, the way they looked at each other like they were untouchable. I can set believe you did this, I whispered into the darkness one night, tears streaming down my face. All the time, all the trust, gone. Silence, my own heartbeat echoing back at me. I started remembering things, small things, a hand lingering too long, a look exchanged that I had brushed off as friendly, a laugh that now sounded like a signal, every memory twisted into evidence, every moment I had cherished, tainted. I wanted to scream. I wanted to break things. I wanted to disappear. But mostly, I wanted to understand. How had I missed it? How had they done this so easily? And why had I let it happen? I stared at my reflection in the darkened window. My eyes were red, swollen. My lips trembled. I looked like someone who had survived a storm and found herself washed up on a beach she didn't recognize. But beneath the hurt, something else was stirring. A spark, a quiet, dangerous flame. Not yet revenge, but a seed. A realization that I had power, even in this wreckage, that the betrayal they thought would break me might just sharpen me. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed awake, planning, watching, waiting, collecting every shred of evidence, every message, every laugh, every small betrayal they hadn't thought I'd notice. Because one day, they would see me, the me they underestimated, the me they thought would crumble. And when that day came, they wouldn't just feel my pain, they would feel my justice. And I would make sure they remembered. I disappeared. Not in the literal sense. I didn't run away. I just stopped showing up, stopped answering calls, stopped smiling, stopped pretending life was normal. Hey, you okay? My mother asked one evening, standing in my doorway. Her voice soft, cautious, like she was afraid of breaking me further. I'm fine, I said without looking up from my phone. I was scrolling endlessly through messages, memories, anything that tied me to the world I thought I had. You still not fine, she said. Her hands were wringing a dish towel. I see it in your eyes. You still changed and I don't still like it. I'm fine, I repeated, louder this time, sharper, enough to make her flinch. She didn't push, she just left. But later my best friend came. You sir hiding, she said flatly. leaning against the doorframe like she had been expecting me. Dawn's sit lie, I can see it. I'm not hiding, I muttered, but even I knew it was a lie. I was hiding from him, from Lena, from myself. She walked in, sat down across from me, you step retreating, running from it one step for help. Not even a little. I laughed. A hollow sound that echoed in the empty room. Help? How do you help someone who's been stabbed in the chest by the people they trusted most? You survive, she said. You learn, you plan, and you fight back. Her words lingered. I wanted to fight back. Yes, but not yet, not like this. Not while I was raw, shaking, unraveling. Nights were the worst. My mind refused to shut off. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, twisting thoughts into knives. He lied. She laughed. I was blind. Anger boiled beneath the surface, thick and dark, wrapping around my chest like a vice. Sadness threatened to swallow me whole, and underneath both, a colder, sharper edge. Something darker, something patient. I realized revenge wasn't about violence. It wasn't about yelling, or breaking things, or slamming doors. It was about control. Control of the narrative. Control of the power they thought they had over me. Control of myself. They can take this from me, I whispered to the darkness, pressing my hands against my temples. They can take me. My mother checked on me again the next morning. You still quiet, she said. You need to eat, to talk, to feel something else. I spem eating, I said, forcing a smile that didn't reach my eyes. I just think better when I spem alone. She didn't argue. She knew I was building something, though I hadn't yet. I was forming the blueprint in my mind, sketching it carefully with every memory, every betrayal, every laugh Lena had stolen from me. You know, my best friend said that evening. Revenge isn't about showing them pain, it's about showing yourself are stronger than their lies. I nodded, but I didn't speak. My throat felt thick. I felt small, hollowed out, but something inside me was awakening. I thought about Lena, her smug smile, the way she thought she had won, about him. His apologies, half-hearted, like they could erase everything. I saw them in my mind over and over, and with each replay my anger simmered, not boiling, not yet, patient, waiting. I wrote notes, small ones, scattered across my desk, observations, little patterns, little weaknesses, every smile, every slip, every moment they thought I wasn't watching, logged. I still be ready. I whispered to no one, the words tasting like steel. I still be patient, and I still be smart. And you still see what it means to take from me what you can steady replace. The world continued around me. People laughed. Phones rang, life went on, but I was suspended in my own time, in my own space, cocooned in darkness and strategy. Patience became my armor, silence my weapon, observation, my ally. And slowly, quietly, I began to feel power. Not yet the kind that demands attention. Not yet the kind that delivers consequences, but the kind that prepares. The kind that waits, and when the moment comes, strikes. Because Lena had taken something priceless from me, my trust, my safety, my home. And I was going to get it back. But first, I had to retreat. Reflect, plan, and wait. I was scrolling late at night, phone in hand, mind half awake, half steaming with thoughts I couldn't quiet, and then I saw it. Lena, smiling at the camera, her new lifestyle blog, sponsored posts everywhere, glamour shots, hashtags, captions dripping with confidence she didn't deserve. A light bulb went off in my chest. So that's it, huh? She took my love, my trust, my life, piece by piece. Well, I thought, I can take this. I started slow. Who's your audience? I muttered to myself, leaning over my laptop, fingers flying. What sponsors? What does she offer? Weak points, japs. Hours blurred. Days passed. I cataloged everything, every post, every brand she tagged, every interaction with followers. She thinks she's untouchable, I whispered, scrolling through her emails she carelessly left public on her website. She's arrogant. She's sloppy. I called a business contact, someone I knew could help. Hey, it's me, I said, keeping my voice casual. I looking into potential collaborations, curious if you heard of Lena blog. There was a pause. Yeah, she got some reach. Why? Just curious, I said. Soft, innocent. I hear she Sep's picky with sponsors. Another pause. She can be. But why? Nothing, I said, and hung up. But I smiled, because now I knew exactly which doors she could walk through, and which ones I could close before she ever reached them. I started tracking every tiny misstep, every caption with a typo, every overlooked email, every inconsistency in her branding. I whispered in the dark of my room, revenge isn't about screaming. It's not about exposing her, not yet, it's about dismantling her, quietly, patiently, perfectly. I imagined her confidence, the way she strutted in her videos, thinking she was unstoppable. I wanted to see that crumble, not publicly, not yet, privately, silently, like a shadow slipping in while she slept. I tested her reputation subtly, sending emails with small concerns to brands she contacted. We need more clarity before signing. Looking forward to your response. Oh wait, this seems incomplete. Each tiny rejection, each slight hesitation was a whisper of power I hadn't had in months. A rush of thrill pulsed through me. I caught myself smiling in the dark. Dangerous, patient, calculating. I had missed the thrill of being in control, of turning pain into strategy, heartbreak into weaponry. I wrote notes in a leather journal I hadn't touched in years. Every name, every weak point, every misstep, every brand. By the time she notices, I muttered, tapping the pen against the page, she's so tangled in her own failures, she once said know what hit her. I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror that night. Dark circles, hair messy, eyes sharp. I didn't look broken anymore. I looked alive, focused, determined. Then, as if the universe had read my mind, I stumbled on a sponsor she'd been trying desperately to reach. The one with the biggest platform. I pulled up their criteria, read it like a script, dissected it for weaknesses. Perfect, I whispered. All the pieces I need. I felt the fire rise in my chest. Not anger, not yet. Something sharper, excitement, cunning, power. I imagined the first domino falling. Lena, confident, smiling, thinking she was untouchable, and me, quietly, from the shadows watching her stumble. It was meticulous work. Every tiny detail mattered. Every flaw, every oversight, every chance I could twist without being seen. Hours turned into nights, nights into early mornings. I barely slept, but I didn't mind. The work itself was fuel. "I've got this," I whispered to myself one night, tracing her sponsor list on paper. "I'll dismantle her confidence. I'll snatch her opportunities. I'll show her exactly what it means to steal from someone whose stew is stronger than you realize." And beneath the thrill, the strategy, the plotting, a deep, satisfying certainty. Revenge wasn't about shouting, it wasn't about violence, it wasn't about public humiliation, it was about control, silent, calculated, precise. I was ready. Lena had taken my love, my trust, my safety, now she would feel the weight of what she'd stolen, piece by piece. And she wouldn't know it until it was too late. I started small. Messages that seemed casual, suggestions that sounded helpful, praise that felt genuine, every word calculated, every interaction designed to mislead her without her knowing. "Hey Lena," I typed one evening, pretending to stumble across her latest blog post. "Loved your take on that lifestyle trend. Have you considered pitching it to some of your sponsors? Might give you more traction." I watched her respond, smiling in the glow of my screen. "Thanks. I didn't think of that. You're always so helpful." I clenched my jaw. She had no idea the road I was pointing her down was paved with traps. Every little suggestion, every casual tip was leading her into missteps she didn't even see coming. Then I reached out to one of my business contacts. "Hey," I said casually, as if it were nothing. "Lena Sep's working on a pitch for a sponsor you might know. Can you give me a little insight?" A pause. "I think so. Why?" "Oh, just curious," I said, trying to help her get her footing. Sep's new at this. "Got it. I can share some pointers." I smiled to myself. Perfect. She trusted me, but she didn't know I was guiding her into mistakes disguised as advice. Next, I enlisted her friend, her so-called confidant. I called casually. "Hey, do you know if Lena Sep's sending out her proposals correctly?" I asked. "I just want to make sure Sep's not missing anything." Her friend sounded clueless. Honestly, I think She's doing fine. But you could check. She listens to you. Exactly. She listens to me. I sent Lena a message that night. Double check your email formatting before sending that pitch tomorrow. Little things like that make a huge difference. And then I waited. I didn't instead have to wait long. The next morning, I saw the subtle fallout. Lena had sent a proposal with a formatting error. The sponsor didn't instead even open it, citing unprofessional presentation. I felt a sharp thrill, almost guilt coursing through me. Guilt, because I was doing this behind the guise of helping her. Thrill, because it worked. I leaned back in my chair, sipping tea, whispering to the empty room, "This is it. The power I lost. I am taking it back." It wasn't messy, not yet. No shouting, no confrontation, just precision, calculated, silent, deadly in its subtlety. She messaged me again. "I don't know why that sponsor didn't respond. Do you think I messed up?" Sometimes I typed slowly, carefully. "It happens. Don't stress. Keep trying. Maybe focus on the next one. You'll get it right. Keep trying. Fail again." That's the path I was steering her down. One evening, I met with my business contact in person, under the guise of a casual coffee. "She's really ambitious," I said aloud, "but she overlooks details. Tiny ones. I just want to make sure she's ready for the bigger opportunities." He nodded. "Yeah, she's talented, but she's rough around the edges. Hard to guide without a mentor." I smiled. "Exactly. That's why I am helping." And so I was, helping, carefully, strategically. Every tip I gave, every pointer I suggested, nudged her toward embarrassment, small failures, and missed chances. It felt strange, this mix of guilt and satisfaction, watching her slip without knowing it.
Part of me hated it.
Part of me relished it. Every sponsor she lost, every misstep, became a silent triumph. She still reached out with her fake warmth. "You stir amazing. Seriously, I don't know what I sped do without your advice." I smiled at the screen, heart hammering. Of course I typed. Always happy to help. But behind the words was strategy, precision, retribution. I noticed her confidence starting to falter. A little shake in her emails. Hesitation in her posts. The sparkle in her videos dimmed slightly. And each small victory, though invisible to the world, felt like a reclamation of what she had stolen from me. "She thinks she's untouchable," I whispered to myself late one night, tracing the names of her sponsors on paper. "She doesn't know who steps in her shadow." I began cataloging patterns: who she trusted, who listened to her suggestions blindly, who could be influenced even slightly to steer her wrong. Every message I sent was a seed. Every tip disguised as help was a tiny domino, and every domino that fell silently fueled me. I called my mother one night, almost as a release. "I am doing something," I said, voice low, almost trembling. "Something careful, patient, and it feels right." She paused. "Be careful," she said softly. "Don't lose yourself in it." "I won't," I promised. "I just want her to feel a fraction of what I felt." And I meant it. Not humiliation, not pain, not exposure. Control, confidence, power. I was reclaiming it quietly, methodically, perfectly. By the time Lena realized what had happened, the damage wouldn't scream. It would whisper, it would gnaw at her, and I would be the shadow behind it all, the unseen hand guiding her missteps. For the first time in months, I felt alive. The storm inside me had a direction. The hurt had sharpened into precision. The betrayal had turned into strategy. And every silent victory, every tiny collapse she didn't notice reminded me I was no longer powerless. I was the architect of her downfall. It happened quietly. I didn't even realize the moment had arrived until I saw it unfold on my screen. Lena had been working for weeks on landing her dream sponsor, the one she gushed about endlessly, the one that would validate all her false confidence. I smiled to myself. That's when I moved. I sent a casual message to her sponsor contact. I been nurturing. "Hey, just wanted to clarify a few things on Lena Sepp's proposal before you move forward. Some minor inconsistencies, nothing major but worth checking." The pause on the other end was perfect. "Thanks, I look into it, appreciate it." I turned back to my screen and waited. Patience had always been my ally. The next morning, Lena messaged me. "I don't yet understand, They said they set were reviewing my proposal, but I triple-checked everything. I typed slowly, carefully. Sometimes sponsors are picky. You probably just need to clarify a few points. Don't stress. It happens to everyone. She believed me. Of course. She did. I was her mentor. Her guide. Hours later, her messages started coming faster, panic creeping into her words. They said my references are incomplete. How could they? Breathe, I said. It's sup's okay, you can fix it, just provide what they need. Sub be fine. Except it wouldn't be fine. I had already subtly seeded doubts with the sponsor contact. The tiny inconsistencies I'd pointed out were enough. Just enough. By evening the response came. After reviewing your proposal, we said are unable to move forward with your sponsorship at this time. I leaned back in my chair, heart racing, not with hatred anymore but with something sharper, reclamation, control, power. She had no idea what had happened. No idea that the help I offered had dismantled her dream before she even knew it was at risk. Lena messaged again, desperation creeping through her texts. I don't understand. How did I lose it? I did everything right. I smiled faintly. Sometimes things are out of our control. Don't take it personally. There's set till be other opportunities. Other opportunities. Opportunities I had already sabotaged, quietly, one by one. I could feel the thrill pulsing through me. The storm of anger and heartbreak I'd carried for months had finally turned into something I could wield, not blindly, not destructively, but strategically. Poetic justice in its purest form. I remembered him, my partner, how his betrayal had cut me open, how his lies had hollowed me. I wasn't thinking of him now, not with pain, but with a quiet vindication. I had been powerless then, not anymore. I watched her social media later that night, posts half-hearted, a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes, confidence faltering, subtly, imperceptibly, and yet to the outside world, she was still perfect, still Lena, still untouchable. I whispered to myself. Not for long. The next day, another sponsor called. I intercepted it carefully, innocently. Hi, just clarifying a few things about Lena Sepp's application. Nothing major, but it might impact her eligibility. They listened. They hesitated. They paused. And I waited. It was precise, surgical. I wasn't yelling. I wasn't exposing her publicly. I wasn't even smiling in her face. I was planting seeds of doubt, silently, invisibly, watching her confidence crumble piece by piece. That night she called me. I don't get it. Everything is falling apart. I don't know why anyone would hesitate to work with me. Sometimes, I said softly, it sets not about you, it sets about timing, or clarity. Maybe double check your approach next time. You get it right. Her panic seeped through the screen in every word. She trusted me, and I controlled every thread. I felt a strange mix of satisfaction and guilt. Not guilt for wanting this. No, I deserved it. But guilt for the method, the patience, the subtle manipulation, watching someone fail while thinking you're helping. It was intoxicating. By the end of the week, the sponsorship she had dreamed of was gone. Publicly, it looked like a minor setback. Privately, it was a crack in the armor of someone who had believed she could break me and walk away unscathed. I pressed my hands against my desk, whispering into the empty room, "This is mine. I reclaimed what was stolen, and it feels right." I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't desperate. I was empowered, controlled, calculating. Every move she made, every misstep, every hesitation, it was a testament to the months I'd spent planning, waiting, learning. And for the first time in a long time, I felt whole again. I leaned back, eyes sharp, a small smile tugging at my lips. Lena had taken from me what she thought she could. I had taken from her exactly what she couldn't afford to lose. Poetic, silent, perfect. And it was only the beginning. It started quietly. Not with shouting, not with confrontation, not with fireworks, just whispers, hints, cracks. I watched her from the shadows, my phone, my laptop, my eyes connecting dots she didn't even know existed. Lena, once untouchable, began to falter. Did you hear about Lena's pitch falling through? A friend of hers asked another, voice low. She lost it, but she was so confident. I leaned back, lips twitching, confidence cracking, anxiety creeping. The facade she'd worn so flawlessly for months was starting to peel. I saw it in her messages too. One late night, she called me, hesitation in every word. I don't understand. Everyone keeps backing out. I don't know what I did wrong, she whispered, voice trembling. Sometimes, I said softly, calm, measured. It's not about doing something wrong. It's timing, circumstance. Focus on the next opportunity. Focus on the next opportunity, which I'd quietly sabotaged. Even my ex-partner noticed. I saw it in his eyes when we crossed paths one afternoon. Regret, flickering hesitation. You, he started, voice low. I, I didn't realize she's steps different than I thought. Different? I asked, calm as a whisper, letting him stew in his own guilt. Yes, he said, voice cracking. I, I don't know. I made mistakes. I said nothing. I didn't need to. My silence was louder than any argument. Meanwhile, her friends started drifting away. The people she'd leaned on to prop herself up, to boost her image, to validate her lies, distancing themselves subtly. Invitations ignored, messages unanswered, side glances, whispers, curiosity, suspicion. One evening, I received a text from my best friend. They start noticing, Abdul, the cracks. Lena Sepp's mask is slipping. I smiled at the screen. Good, I typed back. Let them see the truth. I watched as the panic began to surface. Every post she made on social media was slightly off, charm faltering, wording strange. That smug confidence replaced by thinly veiled desperation. She called me again, voice shaky this time. Abdul? What SIP's happening? People are pulling away. Sponsors? Friends? Even my family seems. I said softly. Breathe. It's SEP's okay. People notice the truth eventually. Dawn sept force it. Just let it unfold. Her silence after that call was palpable. I could practically hear the gears turning in her mind. She didn't know I'd orchestrated all of it, that I was the invisible hand guiding the dominoes. Even her attempts to mask the anxiety failed. A poorly timed post, a hesitant smile in a video, a sponsor questioning a minor inconsistency she'd overlooked, every small crack feeding the momentum of her unraveling. I caught a glimpse of him again. My ex, I should sip seen it, he whispered to me one afternoon. Almost to himself. I missed everything. I was blind. You were, I said softly, letting him carry the weight of his own regret. But now you stir awake. And I remained invisible, silent, observing, watching the chaos I'd quietly set into motion. Revenge isn't about shouts. It isn't about dramatic confrontations. It's about letting people see the truth unfold, watching them connect the dots themselves, feeling the power of orchestrating it without ever stepping into the spotlight. Every failed opportunity, every broken connection, every flicker of doubt in Lena's eyes. Mine, every step of her unraveling had been guided by me. I could almost hear the whispers behind her back. I don't know why she sits like this now. She seemed so untouchable. And I whispered to myself, a quiet, satisfied smile on my lips. Exactly. Untouchable no more. Even her charm, the weapon she had wielded so effortlessly, began to fail. Attempts at flattery, attempts to mask panic, all crumbled under the subtle pressure I'd applied. She was a puppet dancing to a song she didn't know existed. I didn't gloat loudly. I didn't call attention to it. The thrill was in the subtlety, in watching it all unfold like a carefully staged play. And as the day faded into night, I sat back in my chair, eyes sharp, heart steady. Lena's empire of illusions was cracking. The people she had manipulated, the confidence she had stolen, the power she had wielded over me, all of it returning to me in quiet, deliberate increments. The chaos was beautiful. And I, invisible yet omnipresent, was the architect. The knock on my door was sharp, forceful, angry. Abdul, Lena Sepp's voice cracked through it, furious and trembling. Open up. I didn't move at first. I let her words hang in the air. Every syllable, every accusation carried the weight of panic she couldn't mask. Finally, I unlocked the door. She stormed in, eyes wide, chest heaving. What did you do? I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The truth was all around her. The missed emails, the sponsor rejections, the social whispers, her world unraveling quietly, invisibly. You sabotaged me, she spat, voice shaking, words jagged, everything. My blog, my sponsors, My friends, it was you. I let a small, calm smile form. Everything? I asked softly. Everything? She took a step closer, trembling. Don sept play dumb. Don sept act like you sept innocent. You guided me. You whispered doubts into my contact sept ears. You. Do you feel it? I interrupted, voice low, steady. Do you feel what it steps like to have the ground fall under your feet? Her eyes flicked around, panic sharpening. This isn't sept fair. I worked hard. I did everything right. Did you? I asked, tilting my head. You lied. You cheated. You smiled while breaking the people who trusted you most. She froze, her fury trembled and faltered. I didn't stet. You did, I said quietly. And now you such are seeing what it feels like. Quietly, methodically, without anyone needing to raise their voice. Her lips parted. She shook her head. I can fix this. I can explain. I can. I held up a hand. No, you can set. Not this time. This isn't set about public humiliation. It's set is about truth. Seeing it, finally, in front of you, seeing that the person you betrayed, me, was stronger than you realized. Her face faltered. For a moment the cousin I had once adored flickered behind the mask. Confusion, regret, vulnerability. You knew? She whispered, voice almost breaking. From the start, I said. Every step you took, I watched. Every misstep you made, I catalogued. Every opportunity you lost, I guided it. Silently. Precisely. Perfectly. Her knees buckled slightly. I didn't stet no. No, I said softly. You didn't stet, that was the point. She sank into a chair, trembling, burying her face in her hands. I didn't set realize. I didn't gloat. I didn't mock. I didn't need to. The satisfaction was quiet, deep, internal. Justice had been served. Not loudly, not dramatically, but fully. My mother entered the room then, cautious but steady. Abdul? She asked softly. I sups fine, I said, eyes on Lena. It's sups done. She sups facing the consequences of her choices. Mother nodded slowly. You have been patient, thoughtful, its steps remarkable. I didn't need to explain the months of planning, the sleepless nights cataloging every detail, the precise, subtle moves that had brought her to this point. She already understood. Lena looked up, eyes wet, shame and panic colliding. I lost everything because of you. No, I said quietly. You lost it because of yourself. Every lie, every betrayal, every false smile, it all led here. I just showed you the mirror. Her breath caught. I thought I could get away with it. With him, with everyone. I didn't see it coming. I let a long pause stretch between us. Silence filled the room. Thick, heavy, cinematic. She didn't speak. I didn't need her to. Finally she whispered, almost to herself. I destroyed everything. Yes, I said softly, voice steady. And you felt nothing for the people you hurt. Until now. Her shoulders slumped. Her bravado gone. Smugness replaced by raw regret. I remembered the cousin I had once trusted, the one I had confided in, the one I had leaned on, and I realized that she was gone. Not angry, not defiant. Broken. I don't know what to say, she admitted, voice trembling. You don't need to say anything, I said. The truth is clear. Look around you. Every failure, every lost opportunity, every friend who Seps turned away, it Seps all here, and it Seps yours to live with. Her hands shook as she buried her face again. I betrayed you. I lost him. I lost everything. I felt no gloating, no triumph in voice, only calm, only clarity, only quiet satisfaction. Justice hadn't screamed. It had arrived methodically, silently, perfectly. Mother reached over and squeezed my hand. You've reclaimed your power, she whispered. I nodded. Yes, but more than power, it sets clarity, truth, and sometimes that sets the strongest revenge. Lena remained collapsed in the chair, trembling, the realization of her choices sinking in, and I felt the storm in my chest settle. The months of anger, heartbreak, and plotting had reached closure. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't shout. I didn't need to. The evidence, the consequences, and the truth, all of it spoke louder than words ever could. And for the first time in months, I felt whole. The air felt different that morning. Lighter, clearer, I breathed it in like a promise. I stepped outside, coffee in hand, letting the sun hit my face. It didn't burn, it warmed. I smiled to myself. Months of chaos, betrayal, heartbreak, and I was still standing. You okay? My mother asked softly, settling beside me on the porch. Her eyes searched mine, gentle and wary. I am, I said, letting the words roll off my tongue like a mantra. Better than okay. I sep and free. Her smile was small, proud. It's been a long journey. You earned this peace. I nodded. I earned it. Not because I got revenge. Not because Lena fell, but because I survived. I didn't let her break me. I didn't let him. The betrayal define me. You look different, she said, voice soft. Stronger, lighter. Stronger, I agreed, and I meant it. Every scar, every sleepless night, every plan I meticulously executed, they had shaped me, hardened me, and yet in the process freed me. Later I met my best friend at our favorite cafe. Their smile was bright, full of relief. You finally seem at peace, they said, leaning forward. I am, I replied. For the first time in months I said I'm not consumed by anger or heartbreak. I rebuilt my life, quietly, carefully. Every choice now is mine. They nodded, sipping their coffee. I can see it. You sit radiant, untouchable. I laughed softly. Untouchable. A word I had earned in silence, not through force or spectacle, but by reclaiming control over my life, over myself, over the chaos that had tried to swallow me. As we left the cafe, I noticed someone watching me from across the street, a presence unfamiliar but comforting, eyes curious, cautious, smiling. Hi, he said, approaching. His voice had warmth, a softness that made the tension in my shoulders ease. I couldn't help but notice you. I Alex. Abdul, I said, shaking his hand. Something in the firmness of his grip told me he wouldn't break. Not easily, not carelessly. I like your energy, he said, eyes flicking to mine. You seem grounded, confident. Had to be, I replied, letting a small, cautious smile form. Life teaches quickly when you least expect it. He nodded, understanding without judgment. That was rare, that was new, and for the first time in a long time, I felt the stirrings of something I thought I'd lost. Hope. Walking away, I thought of Lena. The memories no longer cut, no longer festered. They were lessons, warnings of greed, betrayal, and the fragility of trust. She had faded into the background of my life, a cautionary tale, a shadow I would never revisit beyond the wisdom she left behind. I instead allow myself to be naive again. I whispered to the wind. I learned who I am, and who I will never let in again. I paused, looking at the skyline. My city stretched wide, full of possibilities. I had passion, skills, ambition, and a heart that could still feel, but now it would choose carefully, protect fiercely. Later that evening, at home I poured through a notebook filled with ideas, plans, and projects I had abandoned while consumed by heartbreak. Each page, each word was mine, uncontaminated, unstoppable. Abdul, my mother called softly from the doorway. You've changed, not just grown, transformed. I looked up, eyes soft but determined. I had to, I said. I had to rise from what tried to bury me, not just survive, but thrive, untouched by what I cannot control. Days turned into weeks. I surrounded myself with people who mattered. My mother, my best friend Alex, cautiously becoming a presence in my life. Each new connection carefully nurtured, yet never rushed. One night, sitting on my balcony, I spoke aloud to no one in particular. I am not defined by their betrayal. I am not defined by heartbreak. I am defined by how I rise after it. Alex, sitting across from me, smiled softly. You've built something incredible. Something stronger than revenge. Something real. I nodded. Yes, real peace, control, confidence. I have it now, and it's mine to keep. There were moments when I still thought of the past. The nights I cried silently, the moments I doubted my own strength, the rage I had held tightly inside me. But those memories were no longer anchors. They were wings. They reminded me of what I survived, what I overcame. I had learned that revenge was a teacher. It wasn't just about seeing justice served, it was about reclaiming oneself, learning patience, strength, and focus. And now I had graduated from that lesson. I am untouchable, I whispered to myself. Voice steady, almost a chant. Not because I harmed anyone, not because I destroyed, but because I protected myself. Because I built again. Because I chose me. Alex reached over, a hand brushing mine gently, and I stem glad I get to see it. You stare? Remarkable, Abdul. I smiled softly. I step had to be, and now I step ready to let new stories in, carefully, but fully. And in that quiet moment, with the city lights flickering below, I realized something. Freedom didn't come from revenge itself, it came from rising after it, from reclaiming what was lost, rebuilding it stronger, and walking forward untouchable, whole and undeniably mine. Lena's shadow was gone, my scars remained, yes, but they were proof, not prison. And I would never forget, but I would never be trapped again.